Hello and welcome back to That's Entertainment, the weekly entertainment show where we look at all the interesting news from last week, this week. This week we're looking at some of the direct repercussions of Netflix's recent announcements while also taking a more positive look at the state of the industry overall. Netflix's desire to start cutting costs have become apparent in the few weeks after their disappointing Q1 results. Various high-profile shows in development have been scrapped, including two animated children's shows, Dino Kid Daycare and Ada Twist. Deadline Hollywood also picked up on development being closed for another major high-profile animated title called Pearl from Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's Archwell Productions. According to Deadline's Mike Fleming, even before the recent events, Netflix had been telling producers to take some development projects elsewhere after these producers had been given an indication that they were priorities. Clearly, Netflix's inordinately high content spend is being reevaluated. Expect that Netflix model to evolve, quality control, and selectivity is actually a virtue for a mature streaming service. Netflix also announced the cancellation after 2 seasons of Space Force, its formerly high-profile sitcom starring Steve Carell, from the Office US showrunner Greg Daniels. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the Steve Carell comedy set a record for talent pay as the actor's deal for the series topped $1 million per episode. One of Netflix's most popular shows will also be leaving the platform later this year when the award-winning Canadian sitcom Schitt's Creek moves to Hulu in the US. As Puck's Matthew Boloney pointed out, this wasn't a Friends or Office situation while legacy owners yanked hot properties from Netflix to build their own streamers. Schitt's Creek was available on the open market, was a proven hit, and Netflix tried to keep it but lost out to a rival. One thing's certain is we're going to see more examples of Netflix losing key shows and film libraries, especially in the competitive US market. Some are thanks to competitors wanting to starve Netflix and feast on their own content, but others will simply be by Netflix coming up short in its ability to spend. Other cost-cutting strategies also became apparent with the Netflix TV website reporting that 25 staff were laid off at the streamer's marketing division last week, and according to The Hollywood Reporter, 3 individuals in different divisions at Netflix tell that there's been a noticeable slowdown in recent hiring as teams have had to fight harder to advocate for new hires. I've been told the budget for personnel on my team has to remain flat. Sources inside the company also expect layoffs as Netflix continues to outsource some positions, particularly those outside of the US, to third parties to save money. However, it's not been all doom and gloom for Netflix. The Media Player News noted that Stranger Things still leads Parrot's digital originals demand chart, tallying 52.6 times the demand of an average series, which is an impressive achievement for a show that hasn't released a new episode since July of 2019. Its ongoing appeal was also confirmed by the fact that the upcoming May 27th debut of Season 4 has made Stranger Things one of the 2 most eagerly anticipated returning shows of the month. Alan Woke of the TV website also focused on the positive in a recent article. Streaming isn't dying or even slowing down. It was inevitable that at some point everyone in America who wanted a Netflix subscription would have one. The company has already signed up around 2/3 of US households, no small feat, but that remaining third doesn't watch enough TV or enough Netflix-style TV to warrant coughing up the extra $15 a month. Netflix is in a quest for total world domination and is now in every country on earth save China, North Korea, and Syria. In many of these countries, there isn't really much of a middle class. Most people are poor, which means that they don't have the extra $15 lying around with which to subscribe to a streaming service. Things like food and firewood get a higher priority. So again, I must wonder why it's surprising that Netflix is looking to introduce an ad-supported subscription tier. Even in the US, there have been good news stories emerging about the state of streaming video today, as a Rapid TV News site noted. Advertising video on demand service Tubi has revealed that what is called a banner year in 2021. It will debut more than 100 original titles over the course of the next 12 months, doubling down on programming and providing a new measurement solution. The Fox Entertainment-owned company racked up 51 million new active users in the last quarter and a record-breaking 3.6 billion hours watched in 2021, a 40% year-on-year increase in total viewing time. The company also believes it's the fastest growing AVOD service in terms of consumer awareness. As TB Vision pointed out, Tubi has also recommissioned adult animation, The Freak Brothers, for a second season of 8 episodes scheduled to air in December 2022. This marks the first time that Tubi has been ever renewed one of its original shows. There are more good news from another US AVOD platform, with Media Player News reporting that Amazon's Freevee expands originals release slate across multiple genres. Additionally, Freevee has secured a short-term film licensing agreement with Disney for a limited selection of titles. This news follows the previously announced freebie deal with NBCU for an exclusive network window for films from Universal's 2020 and 2021 theatrical slate. The future definitely looks good for the growing AVOD market, as streaming ad spending soared 57% in 2021 to hit $15.2 billion in the US. For advertisers, there are more places to buy time online, and there are even more than there were 3 years ago. And since late 2019, Disney Plus, Peacock, HBO Max, and Discovery Plus have launched, and Paramount Plus has rebranded and expanded from CBS All Access. Netflix and Disney are the latest major streaming players to announce plans to incorporate advertising down the road. Digital TV research offered similar positive news recently, with principal analyst Simon Murray revealing US AVOD will grow by 19 billion to 31 billion in 2027, remaining the largest country by far. The US has the world's most sophisticated advertising industry by some distance, plus AVOD choice is greater in the US than anywhere else. The US will account for 46% of global total by 2027, up from 39% in 2021. At CinemaCon in Las Vegas, the National Association of Theatres President CEO John Fithian also had positive words for streaming and Netflix in particular. We love those guys. Ted Sarandos knows movies and TV better than anyone in Hollywood. Our doors are open to give broader play to Netflix movies. We'd love to play more of their movies. A month ago, it would have been almost unimaginable to think Netflix could one day use a high-profile theatrical release to promote one of their films. But it would also have been unimaginable to think Netflix would announce plans for an ad-funded tier to their service. As Wall Street analyst Eric Handler told the Hollywood Reporter last week, Netflix is clearly trying to think about a second revenue stream. Putting their movies into a brief, exclusive theatrical window could also be a possible option. It certainly seems that the Hollywood studios have come back around to acknowledging the benefits of a successful cinematic run and how this can positively impact on the film downstream. As Screen Daily noted, streaming avenues have tipped the balance in favor of distributors, but at least there's no longer so much sticking of heads in sand by exhibitors. In fact, there's a renewed confidence after it's emerged that Batman drew 4.1 million viewers on HBO Max after it grossed as much as $760 million in the global box office. IMAX CEO Rich Gelfond went further, telling analysts recently, "Our partners at the studios and streamers have told us unequivocally that a theatrical window is pivotal to their strategic plans going forwards, and that content that benefits from a theatrical launch performs far better on streaming services and drives greater value throughout the chain." But it was Paramount Pictures CEO Brian Bobbins that succinctly and effectively highlighted the importance of the symbiotic relationship that exists between cinemas and streaming platforms. What I know is that movies which are theatrical, that have a big marketing campaign, have a greater impact on our streaming than movies that skip theatrical and go straight to streaming. I think we just need to lay the idea that cinema is dead, at the feet of whatever moron came up with that concept, because, at the end of the day, it's the single best way of justifying value for your film through each window. I mean, as we're seeing through the results here, a big theatrical launch is a major awareness driver amongst the general public. And as we are beginning to see more and more now with the abundance of content on these platforms and the content walls that regularly fall on us as consumers while we're trying to look at HBO Max and Netflix and all the other services that we're subscribed to, it's really the films that have had a theatrical release that pique our attention because they tend to pop up above the parapet. I think this is a really important, confirmation in a lot of the theory that we've been talking about over the years, is that cinema is here to stay. It doesn't compete with streaming, although streaming does potentially take some revenue away. It also gives mid-tier movies the opportunity to really shine. I think we're going to see much more reactive programming in the future. I think we are definitely going to see the new Hollywood, that's the streaming services like Netflix and Hulu, looking at the theatrical window as a major breakout event for their content that they've invested heavily in. And, that the added impact of audience awareness on both what happens with the content downstream from when it's actually being stuck on a streaming service is going to be very, very important for driving viewership. That's all for this week. Goodbye.